So sometimes you can get kind of lost in, oh, all these different kinds of bread. I don't really know what bread is really interesting. You know, like, you got to make bread. Wait, and then my was making sourdough bread. You know, like you're just lost. And then you have like all of these different choices. So if you haven't actually broken down the steps, or you don't know how to do those yourself, it can be really challenging. So we have to learn to do these things. Organization, right, is something we talk about, like the messy kids, backpack is always like overflowing, stuff is spilling all over the place, things from last year, I can't find anything. My house, time management, you know, kind of the ability to stay on time, on task, which I'm not so good at. Goal-directed persistence. This we see, particularly in the older kids, they can get it, but younger kids really struggle, right? That idea of, it's connected to like delayed gratification, right? Why should I do something now if there's no reward now, right? Like it doesn't make any sense. And they don't understand future consequences of not doing something now. So I think it's Dr. Russell Barkley also who says, you know, for ADHD kids, there's now and not now. And like that's it. And it's like now, not now. Like the now outweighs everything. So understanding moving to a goal, but also the consequences. Flexibility, a lot of times, and we see this in different learning disabilities also, but kids who know how to do something one way, and they get really good at doing it that one way, and they finally feel good at something because they figured out the pattern or the secret to whatever this one way is, and then you change it. Very low tolerance for changing those kinds of things. And then metacognition, right? And these are these 11 skills, they get more complex as they go, right? So these are obviously things that we're really expecting of older kids. But that metacognition, being able to think about thinking, right? Being able to evaluate yourself, being able to view things from a different perspective, but really looking at yourself and your decisions and the things that you think and you believe, like all of that introspective identity kinds of things is really important. But that self-evaluation tool, awesome. Okay, so lots of models. I'm going to ask you to. One of the things that I think is important about executive functioning skills is we have research that shows you can teach, right? And one of the stigma that comes with kids with ADHD or learning disabilities is when they feel like they're being treated differently, right? Or they get pulled out for something, or they're being held to a different standard, even if that standard helps them. They don't necessarily appreciate that. But what we know about executive functioning skills is that all humans need to learn those. So we can build some of these educational things and support into our classrooms and to our education in a way that helps everybody, right? And some of your kids might not need those extra supports. Some of them might not need a little calendar on the side, but it doesn't hurt them to have it there. But the kids who do need it really benefit from it. So when we talk about executive functioning skills, it's really looking at it from a whole school perspective and helping all of our kids and students grow and develop these skills the best that they can. And so this is a case where what's good for your students who are struggling the most is usually also really good for the ones who aren't struggling at all. Or at worst, it has no impact on them whatsoever. So there are Q&L has both of these books. If you work with high school students, these books are phenomenal in terms of talking about executive functioning skills. Particularly kids who are in like those last 2 years and are going to be going to university, where again the skills and expectations that we expect of them is going to take another huge leap, right? And so executive functioning skills are critical. I have worked with so many first-year university students, and it is rare that I work with a student who doesn't struggle with executive functioning skills at some point in their first year of university. So if you work with high school students, these books are really, really good at helping them brush up on some of the things they're going to need. Put all those in. Okay, so the reason why I like this book is it tells us kind of specifically things that we can do, right? And it talks about, you can't, this isn't behavior that you can model for the students, right? Some of these skills you have to explicitly teach. Now, some of them you can't, like working memory. Anybody have a spouse or a sibling or a parent that like, can't remember more than 3 things? Yeah. My husband, and he will fully admit, more than 3, forget it. You know, like he can be at the grocery store and get out of the car, and I will say, go get these 4 things, and he'll come back with 3. Every time. Every single time, unless he writes it down, right? So something like working memory, you really are just waiting for brain development, waiting for the brain to catch up. But some of these skills you can explicitly teach. This is the bachelor expectations to their developmental level, not their chronological age. The external modifications, right, that can be changing something in the environment, right? If you have a really chatty kid in your class, what do you do with them? You move them a lot of times, right? Where do you move them to?
With a quiet student.
Where?
With a student who is very quiet.
With a student who's very quiet, yeah. How do you put that student right next to you? Closer to the front, right, rather than in the back, yeah? Yeah. So those are kind of external, environmental modifications that we can make. We can also modify the way we interact with them, right? The level of empathy and kind of tolerance that we have over some of these things. We'll talk about collaborative problem solving. Scaffolding, right? We all know how to do that, right? You teach them a little bit at a time, you build on it. Focusing on mastery, praising them for the work that they put in, right? Even if you only see those incremental, I mean, you were talking about being able to measure growth over time, right? Well, for a kid, time, right? Now, not now. Waiting a whole year to see that growth means nothing to them, right? But that small little phrase like, hey, you remembered your homework today. That's great, good job. And if you're getting into it a little bit more from a coaching perspective, like, did you do anything differently today? And maybe they will say, yeah, I made sure that I put my backpack by the door last night before I went to bed, right? You can kind of partner with them on what was different today, what worked. You must have tried something different. Did you try a new strategy? Right, you kind of start talking about it so they can see that it's them, right? They are having an impact on what they are able to do. Okay, so there's I wasn't sure if anybody was going to have devices or anything like that. I have these worksheets on in the Google Drive. But just for a few minutes, think about some of those executive functioning skills that you expect in your class. Right? Being on time, being able to sit at their work and do independent work, whatever those things are at your age level, the students you work with, and talk about what are some things that you think you could build into your classroom that would benefit all kids, including those with ADHD. But what could you build in that helps everybody at your age group? So let's think about that.